Greetings, beautiful people. My name is Simon Javan Okelo. I am the CEO and the founder of Madaraka Festival, and I am excited for today's episode of Madaraka Festival podcast. We are recording live at the Seattle Drum School of Music, and I'm truly honored to host my wonderful sister, Qui Qarre, who is a spoken word artist, an author, a poet, a speaker, and a very valuable member of our community here in the Pacific Northwest. How are you doing today?
I'm all right. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. What is it that I didn't say in this introduction that you want to do justice to?
I'm a mother of one.
Okay.
I think that adds a lot. I am blessed to be mother to an amazing little girl.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for making the time for us to connect today and have this conversation. I want you to take a minute and just reflect with me on some of the sounds, some of the smells, some of the colors that you grew up with, and tell us a little bit about where you grew up, whether it was in Kenya, just take us back to when you were 10, 5, and how these factors influenced who you are today.
All right. I was born in Nyahururu.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a cool part of Kenya.
Yeah, I was born in Nyahururu, Nyandarua. I even have a poem about let me take you to Nyandarua.
Oh, well, you want to say that poem?
PG. Parental guidance.
That's fine. Because you're a poet, now everything you say that I have a poem about it, I just want you to say the poem. Then, okay.
All right, let's see whether it comes up. But anyway, I grew up...
Whenever you want to say a poem, though, you look at this camera.
I will for sure.
And I'll position you to say as many poems as you want today. Okay. We'll come back to Nyahururu, right? Nyandarua, okay.
All right. So I was born in Nyahururu.
Okay.
So I grew up around, that's my grandparents' place. So I grew up, for the first, 4 years of my life, I was in Nyahururu with my shosho.
Yeah.
My mom was in school at the time.
Yeah.
She was in college and everything. So I was around my shosho for them, for that big part. And my babu, but then my babu was working in the city.
Yeah.
And then I moved to the city when I was 4. And we lived in Dagoretti.
So you moved to Nairobi.
Yes, to Nairobi. Yeah.
Can you help? Here in the US, a lot of people don't know where Nyahururu is. Can you paint a picture? Paint a picture with the colors, the sounds, the smells, the food,
Yeah.
And also that helps people relate.
Yeah. Green, for sure.
Okay.
I'd say caramel or brown because of the dusty roads.
Okay. Yeah.
At least at the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of green because of, we grow so many veggies.
Tea, right?
Tea, no.
Coffee?
Maize.
So you guys are not like the tea growing?
We say cash crops za Nyandarua ni mawaru. So
so you guys have waru, potatoes, Irish potatoes.
Potatoes, yes. So so a lot of green, and I'd say also a lot of white for the milk or cream for the milk, whichever. And brown or caramel for dusty roads. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So then... I believe that people don't just show up as artists. The experiences that they have in childhood that inspire who they end up becoming, whether it's a poet, an author, and so I want you to take us back to that period and how that influenced who you are today.
I will not lie to you. I saw many artists growing up, or at least then, like when I was like 4, 3. I didn't see so many artists. I don't even remember knowing any artists, And we have like huge chunks of land in Ushago rural area, Nyahururu area, that is. So by the time you're even meeting the neighbor, you've gone for acres, and so we really at that time we were not as exposed to art per se. I mean, there was music, there was songs at church, there was songs playing on the radio, but I don't remember meeting any artists. No, not at all.
But when you think about an African village, almost everything is music, and almost everybody is an artist.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and it's also the setup itself is so artistic. You live in it, you don't even see it. You don't even
true.
Oh wow, that's an amazing piece of art. Everything is. Everything is.
I was interviewing a guest here last week. From Tanzania, and she was telling me that she went to Bellingham, here in Washington State. And during her visit to Bellingham, she had a cock crowing, and she became so happy because that's a sound that reminds her about home, because I had asked her, what are the sounds and colors? Same question I was asking you. And when you think about an African village, even pounding the potato, there is music in it. There is rhythm in it, and also a lot of people sing when they're in the farm, or when they are splitting firewood, or when they are,
I'll tell you an interesting one. In Nyahururu, we have Thompson Falls, which should go by a different name, but the way the sounds of the falls are very. In fact, we call it in Kikuyu, we say kerurumo, and koruruma is to be, what's the term in English? To make that sound, it's like to roar or to make that sound. So we refer to it as kerurumo because it makes a certain kind of sound. So we almost identify things like that. Oh, and it reminded me of something I used to like, but I didn't even realize I liked it. Again, why? Because it was just normal to me. Trees, when it's windy, they ruffle and make these nice sounds, and or a cow when it's hungry. And then my grandmother Shosho would start whining, saying, "Oh, you guys are not giving my cow enough water. That's why it's been making those funny sounds today." So again, it's not like we did not have art. Art is our daily life. We just it's so in us, we don't even like see it much. We don't get too excited or too shocked that it exists, or something else. When you're taking your maize to the, what's it called, when you're going to ground your maize, and you have to take off the chaff, and then you put it on something like a mesh wire, and then you have to grind it. So I remember we were going to one posho mill, and the owner was Baba Kamau. So Baba Kamau was giving us that job sometimes to ruffle and
to clean the maize,
and get off the chaff and everything. So such sounds were just so part of us that when you move to a place like like abroad, you start to miss them because you don't. Or here sounds are different. You were used to a certain kind of pattern, a certain kind of rhythm, a certain kind of music, a certain kind of art. That now, even crickets, we had crickets all over the place. So those sounds. And I think for me, maybe I didn't get so shocked to see them because they were there all the time. Even if I go back home right now, they are here all the time. Now I may notice them because I have not been experiencing such sounds. But that was like childhood, and then games as children were just music, and the tapping, the jumping, the everything, sliding, mud slides. Everything was just music, and then we also now we don't, but as at that time when I was about that age, we used to grow pyrethrum. So we'd go and pick the flowers, and then you had to make a certain kind of music for it to be easier for you to pick. Because what used to bore us a lot is you pick so many flowers, but you have to sell them when they're dry, and then when they dry, they reduce to very little, and then you have to sell. I think at that time we were selling a kilogram for like 7 shillings, Kenyan shillings. So those are just things that are coming to mind right now, and I'm like, oh yeah.
And I think, I believe, and this question I ask all the guests, because I believe that those, I'm curious. I just want to know people based on those factors. But now I want us to go even further and just explore your journey as as a speaker, as a poet, as an author. At some point I want you to talk about your book. But how did you get to that point?
So we moved to, or I moved to the city to join my mother, who was already living in the city in Nairobi when I was 4 or just about 4. And again, the city or Nairobi was no different, just that this time the music or the noises were louder. The matatus were louder, buses were louder. People, bars were common, restaurants were common, concerts were common, crusades were common.
Everybody needed attention.
Everything was music. Women, now neighbors were closer. No one, at least where I grew up, we didn't own like huge chunks of land or anything like that. So people were more closer. So the music, I think, or the voices or the noises became louder. That's how I'd put it. And especially having now grown up in Dagoretti around a place called Kawangware, then everything was loud. Ungwaro. Everything was loud. Again, dusty roads. Dusty roads to some extent, tarmacked roads. Not less green, but not many trees as we had them in the rural area in Nyahururu. Vibrance, so I'd say I'd pick orange for that. A lot of vibrance. And what did I love most when I was a kid? Fish. I loved fish. I loved fish when I was a kid. And in fact, I came to realize when I moved to the city that, wow, the lady who sold us fish, Mama Ochieng, didn't speak Kikuyu like my mother and my father. I was like, what does Mama Ochieng speak? And my dad told me, she speaks Luo. Luo? So how is Luo and how is Kikuyu? Because he didn't even know about these things as a child. Everyone was Kikuyu where I came from. There was nothing new. You either spoke Kiswahili, Kikuyu, or English, and very few people spoke English anyway. But now I met Mama Ochieng, who was selling fish that I had not come across, and she was also speaking a different language. So now it introduces another aspect of more music, more interactions with people who are different, who sing different, who have experienced life differently. And the radio station Mama Ochieng was listening to was not the same one we were listening to. So that was also something. So moving to the city, or now living in the city since I was 4, introduced me to the other Kenyan. Other Kenyans, So I schooled.
Your world just expanded. By moving from the village to moving to Nairobi.
And then also coming at that age when you start now to grasp things and to understand things, and you speak more Swahili now, because now you're not just living amongst, say, Kikuyus. Now you speak more Swahili than you speak Kikuyu. And then when you go to school, you kind of have to also speak English. And there was even one lesson we had that was French. I only remember a song that I don't even remember very well. So that also introduction to other people and their music and their way of life and their food was also interesting. I remember I went to World Hope Academy. And the reason I mention World Hope Academy is because this is where I got to meet a community of people who embraced me. Not that I was not previously embraced. I was since childhood. I was, by the family. I was the singing child, the loud child. I was that kind of child. But World Hope Academy embraced these gifts very well.
Where's World Hope?
In Ungwaro, but the address says Lavington, which is fine, but it's neighbor to Kawangware, so it's somewhere in between. But it kind of also, and then also being closer, on one side it's Lavington, on the other side it's Kawangware, kind of paints a picture of, and gives us who we become. That, when you go and live amongst the rich, you know how to live. When you go and live amongst those who are less privileged, you know how to live. So it kind of puts a balance and creates a balance for you. So subconsciously you don't even realize it until you grow up and you start to look into your life and see how you behave or see certain patterns and how you move about, and then you realize this actually came from somewhere. And then when you root back, you see World Hope Academy. So World Hope Academy embraced me. So many kids came to the school, so many different cultures. So I was introduced to the Luya. We sang in Luya. I sang in Luya. Could even sing for you? Can I sing for you?
Yeah.
Which one do you remember? Even Luo. When it comes to mind, I will sing one. But that's when my artistry kind of picked. I started to realize, I really want this thing. I want to sing. I really, really want to sing. And I also forgot to mention there was Tusker Project Fame growing up. Say from like 2006, 2005, somewhere there. Then we were introduced to Tusker Project Fame, and there was all this. So music now became glamorous. Why? Because it was not just something we were doing for fun, but it could take you on the TV. Being on TV was a big thing. So all that contributed to me gaining a key interest in art. But all this while, it's been music. Where I made poetry is 2009. I was in class 6 in 2009. And I remember we were having a talent show, and there were all categories for, different kinds of art. Dancing, music, a cappella, juggling, all. And then no one wanted to take part in poetry. I was even modeling, don't play. So I took part in all those. Then I realized if I take part in poetry, I will win the prize because no one is taking part anyway. And I did. So I remember I wrote a poem on AIDS. It was like AIDS, AIDS. I don't remember the rest. But I just wrote that and I won because there was no one to compete with me. And slowly I said, but this lines could become something. It's interesting to explore this kind of world. And then I had a teacher of English. His name is Mr. Felix Musango. Felix Musango walks into class one time, and he has a book in his hands. He says, I know it's tuition time. It was after 5. I know it's tuition time. After classes, we used to have tuition. And it's tuition time, but I was just going through this book that I read while I was in high school, and I thought you guys would like it. So he holds one book, and it's Encounters from Africa. Wow, interesting. And then in it is a story. It's an anthology of different stories by African writers, and in it is a story. Africa kills her son, and then he begins to read the story, and I'm like, what? Wow, that is so. It's moving. You want to put on your boots and go fight.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, Africa kills her, really? And the son here is SUN. I'm like, wow. So it gives me a very different understanding of writing, and I realize how powerful writing really is. And not just for music that I had always known, but poems and stories and compositions and inshas that were in Swahili.
Like changing the words or changing the positions where words are.
Yeah.
And influencing the meaning of it.
and how much imagery you can create in someone's head with just your words, and it made me understand how powerful words are. I remember after that, we didn't even complete the story because we only had 30 minutes for tuition. I went and I borrowed him that book, and I went home and I read the story, and I read it again and again and again and again. It's Africa Kills Her Son is written by Ken Saro-Wiwa, a Nigerian author and
he was assassinated, right?
Yeah. And then to also see how powerful words are, that his assassination represented what happened in his life eventually. I was moved. And let me tell you, I have read that story over and over. And every time I read that story, I understand it differently. And that began to create this, or give life to the activist in me. I was like, yes. Now I began to see things differently. I began to see art differently. I got more drawn to poetry and literature. I really got drawn to it, and I started writing even more. Sometimes I remember I'd write compositions and creative writing pieces. I'd write compositions, and I used to get high marks for compositions and insha's. I remember sometimes teachers would, who used to mark, would pull me aside and be like, "Are you the one who's writing this? Where is this coming from?" And now let me tell you somebody else who also influenced my artistry, my dad. My dad used to make me watch Biafra Wars from the age of 9, 8. I'd be bored. And then when I gained the interest, he would begin to explain to me about wars, about why wars are important. He would try to explain to me about how Africa operates and how wide it is. Because growing up, you only know Kenya and at most maybe Nyahururu, or maybe Mombasa that you've never been to the coast side, or Kisumu that you only hear that's where fish comes from. But that's really that's the most you hear. So my dad really also played a key part in my artist journey, because he introduced me to this other side that, he made me understand how this other side of the world. How geopolitics work. Yeah, how this other side of the world. I think
he also even expanded your world even further beyond Nairobi. Now he was taking you across Africa.
Yeah, okay. And then we would watch, I would just, listen to the news, or, and then he would say, "You see what they're saying? Now let me tell you what this means." And he would try to explain that to me. And even beyond that, now you also get into the community, back into the community, and you look at the way things are set up. My school, World Hope Academy, on one side is Lavington, lavish area. Lavington, anyway. On the other side is Kawangware, right? There's just one wall that separates these two people. Kenyans. Just one wall that separates these two people. And you know what runs on the Kawangware side of the wall? Sewage. We would go there today and I would show you. This is the wall I'm talking about. This is the sewage. On this other side, you know what starts from there? An entire estate. Children playing, riding bikes, skating. On this other side, sewage and shanty homes all the way. And there's just one wall that separates these two kinds of Kenyans. And then now you begin to see things like that.
But it's like that here too. It's like that here in Seattle.
Yeah.
Neighborhoods are, even the neighborhood where we are recording at.
Yeah.
You find that, there are a lot of Latinos that live here,
Yeah.
There are a few black people, very few white people, Then if you go to the other side of the highway, you find a different, as you go further down towards Rainier, you see different ethnicities.
Yeah.
So, class division is everywhere. And I think a lot of poets speak about it, Do you know Linton Kwesi Johnson?
I think I know I'm familiar with the name.
Linton Kwesi Johnson.
I think I'm familiar with the name.
He's a poet from England. You should follow his work. Yeah. So now being introduced to that, I mean, it didn't all happen all together at once. Like I said, it was just my way of life, right? But now you begin to recognize
begin to notice, you hear how you listen to people speaking, and you listen to how they phrase things and how they talk about things, at that age, now maybe 12, 13, 14. And you almost create an identity for yourself. And I kept writing and I kept writing. And then I think from like the age of 14, I think I had a crush.
Like a crush?
A boy crush.
Oh, boy crush, okay. Good.
And then I didn't know what to do about that.
So this is still in Nairobi?
Yeah. I didn't know what to do about that.
Yeah.
So I started writing.
Yeah.
About my boy crush.
Yeah.
And believe me, I wrote.
You wrote a lot of poems or just one poem?
So many.
That's good.
I had diaries.
So it was an outlet for you.
Yeah,
a way for you to express your emotions.
Yeah.
And this is something that could help people with mental health challenges, especially as a creative from Africa.
Yeah.
When you move to the diaspora, a lot of the time you work so much that there is very little self-care time, but also you don't have an outlet.
Yeah.
Many people, the only outlet they have is clubbing, drinking. Many people don't even think about traveling domestically,
Yeah.
Or barbecue in the parks, just come in the summer, So having an outlet that can enable you to spit a few words even in your room by yourself is so great,
Yeah.
So then talk to us about your biggest platform that you've ever performed in as a poet.
The biggest?
Yeah, the biggest or the most impactful. Like what do you say changed everything for you as a poet or a speaker or an author?
Right, I'm gonna get to that. I remember when I was in Form 2, at this time I was in high school now. I was watching on TV and I saw a poet called Poet Teardrops. First I saw a poet, Genetics, on Crossover, and she was performing, and I was like, I could actually do something to my writing. I could speak it out, and I started to do that. And I remember and that was in Form 2. But now when I got to around Form 3, Form 4, somewhere, I don't remember where exactly, I saw Poet Teardrops. I said, what? Mom, you see the lady I told you I saw on TV, speaking or performing the poems, some of the poems I write. Now I have seen I have seen a Kenyan on TV who's doing it. Right? And I could not wait to finish high school and follow this poet and go out. And I did. I cleared high school. I looked at the situation at home and I was like, oh my goodness, we were not doing very well financially at the time. And at this time, my parents had separated. My mom was struggling at the time. Initially, she was doing well. She had a business running. But, businesses in Kenya, 1 year you're good and the next year, and it could even be businesses. You haven't done businesses here, so I don't know. But businesses in Kenya, 1 year everything is working and then the next year you don't even know what happened.
That's here too.
That's here too. I haven't done business here, I don't know.
That's here too. And also everywhere. Business is the same, And also business is just like life, It's like work.
Yeah.
People get employment, the next day they're sacked.
Yeah. Well, that has happened. So so my mom was not doing very well, and I was like, something, I will not waste my life just lingering around. And I cleared high school in 2015, and at the time I had been introduced to Poet Teardrops on TV, and I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I prayed to God and I told God, hey, I have this gift. I'm going to use this gift. Please let this gift open doors for me. That's what I said. I just looked at how we were doing at home and I was like, I don't want to pressure my mom right now. If I go to school, I will go to school. But right now, the way things are not looking nice. So 2016, I follow Poet Teardrops on Instagram. I even sent him a text. I was just like, hey, I love what you do. He saw it later on. So I follow him around and I get introduced to, a street poetry performance. You actually just go by that name, street poetry, in Nairobi, in Aga Khan area. Aga Khan sidewalk. And I go there and I perform and everyone is impressed. I'm not doing very well, but they're like, oh, we see something here. That's May 2016. And then slowly I get connected to other poets. You know, when you meet one artist, they connect you to another artist and to another artist and to another artist. And I found my way into Kenyan National Theatre. I mean, now it goes by a different name, but KNT for those who know KNT. And then I started performing in an event held every Thursday after lunch called Poetry After Lunch. And that I met a community of poets, and we used to mentor each other. You know, that was very good. We used to mentor each other, we used to correct each other, we used to empower each other, we used to grow, you know, we used to exchange books, exchange notes, you know, ideas and everything. And then towards the end of 2016, there was what we call a poetry slam. So poets kind of compete against each other. It's called, people don't like to call it a competition, but it is. Poets, you know, bring your best game on stage and, you know, let's see who wins the championship, and then whoever wins is crowned, you know, Queen of the Year or King of the Year, you know. So there was one specifically that was for women. I think was the first one for women. And I was very excited to see how women would tackle it. And then I checked the flyer, and a ticket was going for like 1,500. At the time, I was selling shoes to, you know, give me bus fares to these poetry things I wanted to do, because I had one goal. I knew art is it for me. This is the only way I'm getting out of the block. This is the only way I'm going to. I knew it. Deep down, I felt it, and I knew it. I knew this is my only way out. So I remember, you know, going back to the event, I remember it was 1,500, and I was like, I can't afford this. Really, my capital is just about 2,000. How can I pay 1,500 for one ticket? Yeah. But then here's the catch: if I take part in the competition, I attend the event for free. That's what I did. Yeah. I contested, you know, preliminaries. I'm Kikuyu in case I say that wrong. Yeah. Preliminaries, and then I went through that. I went through the auditions, and I remember the day of the actual event. We were so women poetry slam Africa. So there was, you know, multiple of us. Like I think we were about 16, and then we were dropped to about 9. So I was competing against 9 women, and it was exciting. I mean, it was a little scary, but it was exciting to see how these were the best of the best. Believe me, these were the best of the best. These women had their craft right. Yeah, I was excited to be amongst them. All right, I go in. So
I want you to move a little fast because of time. We have to make sure we do this episode within 30 minutes. All right. So I want you to jump ahead further to your to your publication, your anthology. So finish your thought process now, but jump quickly because of time, so that we can get to your anthology quickly, and then you look at this camera and share with our viewers a few things.
Okay, all right.
Keep going.
I talk about this event because I went into that event and I won.
Yeah.
And the moment I won
that's what catapulted you.
And the moment I won that event, I became Poetry Slam Queen 2016. The moment I won that event, the winner, part of the prize, there was prize money, of course, but the winner was to represent Kenya in the International Women's Slam in Dallas. Okay. And that's how I come to the United States.
I see.
Yeah. That's how I come to
When was this now?
This was 2016 November, the event itself. But then I came to take part in Women of the World Poetry Slam in Dallas, Texas, 2017 March. Yeah. So that opened more opportunities, opened more doors. And that's how I started coming to the US to do poetry events, poetry tours, poetry. I have been invited to schools and organizations. I have met, but you know, life has to go on. Poetry is there, yes, but life also has to go on. In 2018, I hosted my second event at the TRM Qui Qarre Live 2018.
Where is that? Kenya National Theatre?
No. Thika Road Mall.
Thika Road Mall.
Yeah. And about 4 days after the event, I got involved in a road accident.
Yeah.
Which I ended up suffering mild traumatic brain injury that comes with memory loss.
Yeah.
So for like, in my life I have like 2 months that is blank.
Wow.
And the funniest thing, at the time in the same year, 2018, I had published my first book, Tears of the Pen. It's available on my website, Qui Qarre, QUIQARRE.com. You'll see it. I had published it, but that was like, let me challenge myself to do this, right? Tears of the Pen, and I wrote an amazing book, sold so many copies. But when I had that accident, again, a turnaround. Because I used to write even while sick. I used to write even when I did not know stuff. And it was such a big blow because I remember I was told that I am a poet. And then I asked who a poet is. It was crazy. I started writing. And that's how I came up with Broken Vase.
Yeah. Can you show it to that camera? And then talk a little bit about Broken Vase.
Broken Vase.
Yeah.
So it felt like at the time while I was healing, it felt like I was broken, right? But while I was broken, there was something blossoming and growing inside of me that I felt was very powerful, right? And that's why when I was talking to the illustrator of this, Zod Files, the illustrator of this, I told them to paint or to create something like that.
Yeah.
A woman who feels very broken, but they feel like they have something growing inside of them. And then for me, being a poet and an artist, it's in my head. So that is why there's flowers, at the top side, and the woman is just, and this book is also it felt very naked.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
Because I didn't cover anything. I just spoke and I just kept speaking because now writing and speaking was healing.
Speak about the shed one piece in the book.
All right, let's see.
Yeah, one piece, and then then look at this camera.
All right.
And let everybody know how they can support you, how they can get a copy of the book.
Okay. I'm going to read Doorpost DM.
Okay.
I wrote, "Love yourself" on my doorpost. It reminds me to do myself that favor as I go in and as I come out, not to expect love from anyone, not from anyone inside that home or outside, to let love be a gift and more so, a surprise. It reminds me to remember to love myself behind closed doors and outdoors. I picked that from my Bible. Now, it's my favorite scripture. It reminds me of the broken vases inside the walls of my home and the beautiful vases on my windows and the story of love that comes with each vase. Maybe full vases are not full of love. Maybe broken ones are put together by love.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much.
You can get it on my website. It's also available on Amazon.
Okay.
Nuria Books, helps me distribute that. But
in Kenya.
Yes, in Kenya, and even globally. Now they do even globally. But you can get it on Amazon. Broken Vase, Qui Qarre, QUIQARRE.
Perfect.
So this was felt like a child.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It felt like a child. It felt like, I also have an amazing little girl who came after.
Yeah.
Right? And when I look at my little girl...
That was now the flower from the broken vase.
Now this is my baby. Her name is Kenyan. Now this is my baby.
Yeah, the flower, right? Yeah.
When I look at her and how full she is and how much joy she brings. Her name Kenyan means joy.
Yeah.
It's actually joy in Kikuyu. How complete she is and how she came from somebody who was at the time was very broken and so scattered and everything and how art kind of embodies that and how she puts me, in a nice place, how she expects that I show up strong. And I have to, and really I have to. So that's how broken vase came about. Flowers have to blossom anyway. Spring is coming. Flowers have to blossom. It doesn't matter whether the vases are broken. Flowers gotta blossom.
Congratulations on everything that you've accomplished. It's really difficult as a creative to produce a piece of work and hold it in your hands and put it out to the world, whether it's a book, a poem, a song, to put it out in the world is not easy. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Look at this camera and invite everybody who is watching to subscribe to Madaraka Festival here on YouTube.
You are missing out if you're not subscribing. Welcome to Madaraka Festival, the place of art and good energy and good music and poetry and everything nice. Subscribe.
Perfect. And then look at the same camera and invite everyone to join us on August 30th at Pier 62.
Pier 62?
At the Waterfront Park in Seattle.
Okay.
The 11th anniversary of Madaraka Festival.
And you know what's good about joining and subscribing and being part of this community is that on the 30th of August, we're going to have Madaraka Festival in Pier
62.
In Pier 62. You are more than welcome. I will be there. Please be there.
Perfect. I just want to thank you all for joining us for today's conversation here on the Madaraka Festival podcast. My name is Javan Okelo, and I hosted my incredible sister and guest, Qui Qarre, who shared with us her journey as a poet, a speaker, author of 2 poetry anthologies, mother of 1 beautiful little one. And I'm just so grateful for your time. Congratulations again on your accomplishments.
Thank you so much.
And if you're joining this channel for the first time, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and also leave your comments down below so that we know how today's conversation with Qui Qarre impacted you. Peace.